Horror story: The Mysterious Forest. It was 11 p.m. Three friends, Tushar, Rahul, and Apu, set out on a trip to a remote mountain region, far away from the city's noise. Along the way, they heard an eerie tale from the locals about a deep forest where those who enter never return. Villagers always have their ghost stories. Apu laughed, dismissing the warning. But an old villager gravely warned them, "Do not enter that forest after sunset. No humans live there at night. Something else does." Tushar and Rahul paid no attention. Instead, curiosity got the best of them, and they decided to explore the forest at midnight. Entering the forest. At exactly 12 a.m., the three of them stepped into the forest, carrying flashlights. The place was unnervingly silent. Only the distant sound of crickets filled the air. The trees were so dense that not even the moonlight could penetrate through. Suddenly, a whisper echoed around them. It wasn't just one voice, it was multiple voices murmuring in an unknown language. "Who's there?" Rahul shouted. No reply. But then, from behind the bushes, a shadowy figure emerged. It had the shape of a human, but its face was obscured, like a swirling mass of darkness. "Run!" All three of them sprinted. But no matter how fast they ran, the path ahead stretched longer and longer, like they were trapped in an endless loop. "No one escapes this forest," a chilling voice echoed through the air. Apu glanced back and nearly fainted in terror. The shadow had grown larger, its elongated hands reaching out for them. Rahul's flashlight flickered, then died. Darkness swallowed them whole. The next morning, at sunrise, some villagers found Rahul and Apu unconscious at the forest's edge. Their faces were pale, their eyes staring blankly, as if they had seen something unimaginable. But where was Tushar? He was never found. The villagers whispered, "Another soul lost. The forest has claimed its next victim." The Curse of the Graveyard. The Mysterious Graveyard. It was 1 a.m. Niloy and his friends had gone to an old graveyard located a few miles away from their village, just for fun. They had heard many eerie stories about the place but never took them seriously. An old villager had once warned them, "Never go there after sunset. Many have entered, but not all have returned." But Niloy and his friends laughed it off as mere superstition. When they reached the graveyard, everything seemed normal. Old graves, large trees, and broken tombstones. They joked around, mocking the stories they had heard, and then, suddenly, a strong wind started blowing. The trees swayed violently, as if whispering something. The air around them felt heavy and cold. "Listen, do you hear that?" Ronnie whispered. Everyone froze. A faint crying sound echoed through the air. It was the sound of a woman weeping. The nightmare begins. Curious, they decided to follow the sound. Slowly, they ventured deeper into the graveyard. Near an ancient tombstone, they saw a shadowy figure, a woman in white standing still with her head bowed, long black hair covering her face. Who's there?" Niloy stammered. No response. Then, ever so slowly, the figure lifted its face. What they saw made their blood run cold. Her eye sockets were hollow, her face distorted, and her lips stretched unnaturally long as if reaching out for them. The terrifying escape panic took over. They turned and ran. But no matter which direction they ran, they kept ending up in the same spot. The graveyard had turned into an endless maze. "You entered. Now you can never leave." A deep, guttural voice echoed in the air. Suddenly, one of the graves cracked open, and a black, decayed hand shot out, grabbing Niloy's leg. The next morning, at sunrise, villagers found Niloy's friends unconscious near the graveyard's entrance. But Niloy was nowhere to be found. Only a new tombstone appeared near an old grave. The inscription read, "Niloy, the one who never returned." Cursed Hospital. Chapter 1. The Mysterious Call. It was 2 a.m. Dr. Arif Ahmed sat at his desk reviewing patient reports. He was an experienced surgeon working at an old hospital that had once been a mental asylum. Decades ago, in the 1980s, a massive fire had broken out, killing dozens of patients and staff. The hospital was shut down for years, but had recently been reopened. That night, the hospital was eerily silent. Most patients were asleep, a few nurses were on duty, and security guards patrolled the dimly lit corridors. Suddenly, Dr. Arif's phone rang. "Doctor, please come to the OT Operation Theater immediately. It's an emergency." He glanced at his watch. An emergency surgery this late at night? Something felt off, but he grabbed his coat and hurried toward the OT. As he pushed open the heavy OT door, a strange, icy wind swept through his body. But when he stepped inside, his blood ran cold at what he saw. Chapter 2. The Horror in the OT. The operation theater was dimly lit. A patient lay on the operating table, motionless. His skin was pale, eyes wide open, but completely lifeless. Dr. Arif turned to the nurses, but they stood still, their faces partially hidden in the shadows. "What's going on here?" he asked. Before anyone could answer, the patient suddenly sat up. His face contorted in an unnatural way. His eyes oozed black liquid. His mouth stretched open wider than humanly possible, and a twisted grin spread across his face. "You tried to burn me alive, but I never died." A horrifying scream filled the OT. Dr. Arif rushed to the door, but it was locked. The nurses turned toward him, slowly stepping forward. But they were no longer human. Their eyes were hollow, their skin rotting, and a foul, decaying stench filled the air. Chapter 3. The Terrifying Corridor. Dr. Arif felt his heart pounding. His only way out was through the window. He climbed onto the table and smashed the glass with all his strength. But just then, the lights in the OT flickered and went completely dark. The only thing left was the deep, guttural voice whispering in the darkness, "You can never leave. You belong to us now." Chapter 4. The Hospital's Curse. The next morning, a nurse opened the OT door. The room was empty, but on the floor lay a broken stethoscope, and next to it, written in blood, were the words, "I will return." Even today, if someone walks past that OT after 2 a.m., they might see a doctor wandering the corridor. But he is no longer human. He is a cursed soul. The Forest of the Damned. Chapter 1. The Forbidden Jungle. It was a foggy evening when 4 friends, Ayan, Rafiq, Tisha, and Kabir, set out on a camping trip deep in the heart of the Rudroban forest. The jungle was infamous, surrounded by tales of people who had entered but never returned. An old tribal man in a nearby village had warned them before they left. "The forest is cursed," he said in a trembling voice. "Once the sun sets, it belongs to them. You must leave before darkness falls." The friends laughed it off. They were adventure seekers, not believers in ghost stories. By nightfall, they had set up their tents near a small clearing in the jungle. The air was heavy. The trees towered above them like silent watchers. A strange stillness surrounded them. No chirping of birds, no rustling leaves. It was as if the jungle was holding its breath. Then, the whispers began. Chapter 2. The Shadows Awaken. It started softly, like a distant murmur, but soon the whispers grew louder. The voices were many, speaking in a language none of them understood. "Who's there?" Rafiq shouted, shining his flashlight toward the trees. For a moment, they saw nothing. Then, something moved. A dark, shadowy figure stood between the trees, its form barely visible against the darkness. Tisha gasped, "Guys, there's more!" Around them, between the trees, dozens of figures emerged, faceless, silent, their heads twitching unnaturally. Then, all at once, they turned toward them. Chapter 3. The hunt begins. Panic took over. The friends ran blindly through the jungle, their flashlights flickering. The shadows moved swiftly behind them, whispering, laughing, a bone-chilling, hollow laughter. Kabir tripped and fell. "Help me," he screamed as the figures closed in on him. Ayan turned back, but it was too late. The shadows dragged Kabir into the darkness. His screams echoed for a moment. Then silence. He was gone. The remaining three stumbled upon an old wooden cabin deep inside the jungle. Desperate, they ran inside and slammed the door shut. Inside, the cabin was wrong. The walls were covered in strange symbols, and an unbearable stench filled the air. A rotting corpse sat in the corner, its eyes hollow, its mouth stretched in a frozen scream. Then, they heard breathing, not their own. Something was inside with them. Chapter 4. No escape. Tisha turned around and screamed. The shadows had entered the cabin, their featureless faces only inches away. Their whispers were now clear. "You entered our world. Now you can never leave." Ayan and Rafiq grabbed Tisha and tried to run, but the door had vanished. There was no way out. The room began to shrink, the shadows closing in from all sides. A blood-curdling shriek echoed through the jungle. Then silence. Chapter 5. The Forgotten Ones. The next morning, local villagers found the campsite. No bodies, no footprints, only the abandoned tents and a single message carved into the trees. "We are still here." Even now, on moonless nights, travelers claim to hear whispers from Rudraban Forest. And sometimes they see shadowy figures watching from the trees.